On this Sunday night, police officers killed, 3 shot dead, 3 others wounded, a suspect taken down in Baton Rouge, a place already tense after a recent controversial police shooting. The president tonight calling for unity. Security fears on the eve of the Republican National Convention here in Cleveland. And our new poll showing a major hurdle here for Donald Trump after a bumpy rollout for his running mate. Coup crackdown. Our Richard Engel is inside Turkey as thousands are rounded up after the military attempt to overthrow the government at this key U.S. ally. And dangerous extremes. Flash floods overwhelm parts of the South. Cars underwater, boats rescuing residents, while elsewhere, powerful winds level buildings. Nightly News begins right now.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt, reporting tonight from the Republican National Convention in Cleveland.
And good evening. On the eve of this important convention, the nation's attention has once again been abruptly turned to a heinous act of violence against police. The shooting deaths of 3 law enforcement officers in Baton Rouge, Louisiana today. 3 others were injured, including one described tonight as fighting for his life. The officers were shot after they responded to a report of a man with a gun. Police say the shooter was killed. Tonight, we don't know his motive, but in an acknowledgement of other recent tragedies involving police, President Obama late today warned Americans against inflammatory rhetoric and words that divide. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez is in Baton Rouge with late details.
The chaos erupted just before 9 a.m. with a panic call now all too familiar.
Shots fired, shots fired.
Gunfire at a gas station less than a mile from Baton Rouge Police Headquarters.
Shots fired, officer down, shots fired, officer down. Got a city officer down, shots fired.
The mayor calling it an ambush, but whether the officers were lured into a trap is unclear.
We've been advised that the subject may be still shooting. They're advised that they may still be shooting. Officer down, I don't know whose radio this is, but officer down.
When the gunfight was over, at least 3 officers dead, 3 others injured. The suspect, wearing black fatigues and armed with a rifle, was killed.
We think the suspect is down. We have him over there. We're going to check him out with a robot before we lighten up on him.
The shooter, identified as Gavin Long from Kansas City, Missouri.
It's unjustified. It's unjustifiable. The violence, the hatred just has to stop.
Right now, the motive remains unclear. The attack comes less than 2 weeks after the police-involved shooting death of Alton Sterling, which catapulted Baton Rouge into the raging national debate over law enforcement tactics. Days later, 5 officers were shot and killed in Dallas. And just last week, authorities here announced several arrests connected to stolen guns. At the time, police said the weapons may have been part of a plot to kill cops. Late today, President Obama at the White House.
Only we can prove that we have the grace and the character and the common humanity to end this kind of senseless violence.
Tonight, once again, another city is in mourning, and police are on edge. The officers killed range in age from 32 to 45 years old. A sheriff's deputy remains in critical condition. Now, police say this is no longer an active shooter scenario, but this remains a very active scene. At least 2 people have been taken in for questioning. Lester.
All right, Gabe, thank you. Let's get a little more on this investigation and what we're learning about the apparent shooter. We turn to NBC's Pete Williams. Pete, what have you found out?
Lester, law enforcement officials say that they're checking whether others were involved, though some say they believe this gunman who fired the shots acted alone. Police say they're still running down leads. They've taken 2 people in for questioning. Witnesses told police they thought at least 2 others were involved in the shooting attack, but there's been no confirmation of that. So one big question tonight, who made the 911 call that drew police to the scene in the first place? Was it someone who innocently reported seeing a man with a gun, or was it someone hoping to lure them there for an ambush? As for the man authorities say fired the shots, he's identified as 29-year-old Gavin Eugene Long of Kansas City, Missouri. In fact, officials say he just turned 29 today. This was his birthday. Police are in the process of searching his house in Missouri tonight. Some federal law enforcement officials say they're also looking at whether he was associated in the past with an anti-government movement known as Sovereign Citizens. Its followers generally believe that local police have no authority. But why Baton Rouge is the big question tonight, Lester.
Pete Williams for us in our Washington newsroom. Thank you. It's under this shadow of violence at home and abroad that the Republican National Convention kicks off here in Cleveland tomorrow. Security here is layered and it is robust in and around the Quicken Loans Arena. But the head of the city's police union says it may not be enough and has called on the governor to take some extraordinary steps to keep people from legally carrying weapons on the streets here during the convention. NBC's Stephanie Gosk has that.
On the eve of the convention, the news out of Baton Rouge spread fast. The second deadly police shooting in as many weeks. Tonight, the head of Cleveland's police union is calling on the governor to declare a state of emergency and temporarily suspend Ohio's open carry law.
Leadership needs to do something to protect the men and women of the police department and the citizens out here.
In the city's public square, open carry was on display. One gun owner hoped to make a point with his assault-style rifle.
This is to make people aware that there are good people out here. I'm not a bad person.
City officials had already said they were altering the security plan following the killing of 5 officers in Dallas. Brian Casey sits on the safety board for the city council.
Not only do we have to keep the delegates and obviously the candidates safe, but everybody who wears a badge now is a target.
The shooting today is just the latest in a string of incidents in the last year that have shaped Cleveland's security plan, including multiple violent protests at Trump rallies, and just a few days ago, the horrific attack in Nice, France. The Secret Service is in charge here, coordinating 5,500 total law enforcement, including police officers from as far away as California. 2,500 interlocking steel security fences stretch more than 3.5 miles, with concrete barricades and cement trucks blocking off streets. The FBI has been gathering intelligence for weeks on possible protests. The owner of this alternative bookstore says 7 of his 9 employees got home visits from the feds. How did they react to them?
Frankly, it's always a little upsetting when an authority comes to your house and you're like, what did I do?
Military leaders are also on hand. A planning document obtained by NBC News shows that 39 colonels are here in an advisory role, more than the number on the ground for the Pope's visit last year. Today, after months and months of planning, Cleveland's chief of police sounded confident.
It's game time, to coin a phrase from the Cavs. It's game time, and we're ready.
This will give you a sense of just how quickly a small group of protesters without a permit can be pretty disruptive. They've shut down this street, and this is the entrance to where the delegates are heading for a greeting party. They can't meet that greeting until they're greeted by this force. As for that open carry law, the governor tonight saying that he is powerless. He can't suspend it temporarily. Open carry is still in place. Lester?
Quite a show of force there behind you. Stephanie Goss, thank you. Now to the business at hand as Republicans prepare to formally nominate Donald Trump as their candidate. Our brand new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll shows Trump still trailing Hillary Clinton by 5 points. That's the same as it was 3 weeks ago. And as our Hallie Jackson explains, Trump and now his new running mate Mike Pence still have a big job ahead of them to bridge the deep divide within their own party.
With balloons in place, the celebration
Welcome to Cleveland.
Set inside the convention, even as what's happening outside colors the campaign trail yet again. Baton Rouge expected to be recognized tomorrow night in Cleveland, a senior Trump official tells NBC News, with Donald Trump himself calling the country divided and out of control, blaming a lack of leadership. Now, hoping to show his party and the world he's ready for the responsibility.
This is clearly going to be Donald Trump's convention. The delegates on the floor are going to be his delegates. More importantly, the message is going to be his.
That message, in a word, unity. But look at the numbers. Nearly 80% of Republicans say the party just isn't there, according to our new poll. With Trump's unfavorability rating the worst for a presumptive nominee heading into a convention in the history of our poll. Only 38% of Republican voters say they're satisfied with him.
If the public sees the Donald Trump that I've gotten to know in private, he will not be stopped.
Party head Reince Priebus defending his candidate's personality and his most controversial policy.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
Today, arguing Trump has pivoted on his temporary ban on Muslims entering the U.S. Even his own VP pick disagrees with him on it. And Indiana Governor Mike Pence, not a fan of negative campaigning, will have to show how he'll reconcile Trump's tone, too.
I think this is a good man who's been talking about the issues the American people care about.
But name calling?
And Donald Trump's candidacy has been about the issues the American people care about.
I call her Crooked Hillary. She's Crooked Hillary. He will. I didn't ask him to do it, but I don't think he should do it because it's different for him.
And late today here in Cleveland, the rollout of the big names set to speak in prime time. And the people promoted aren't Paul Ryan or Mitch McConnell or Chris Christie, all of whom will take this stage. Instead, as the Trump team tries to personalize its candidate, it's all about friends and family. 6 Trumps will talk to the delegates gathered here over the next week, Lester, perhaps showing that while Donald Trump may be able to share the spotlight, he's never far from it. Lester?
All right, Hallie, so quiet where you are right now. Certainly won't be that way this time tomorrow. Thank you. Hillary Clinton also responding to the police killings in Baton Rouge today, calling it an assault on us all. And while the RNC is going on here, she'll be out on the campaign trail in full force. But our latest polling shows that her email scandal is taking a toll on her campaign. We get more on that from NBC's Casey Hunt.
Hillary Clinton's email use still casting a long shadow over voters' views of her today.
There is evidence that they were extremely careless.
Last fall, only 42% of Americans said her private email use as Secretary of State was important to their vote. Today, our new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll shows that's now up to 55%. With Trump sure to hit the issue in Cleveland, Clinton is airing anti-Trump ads in battleground states.
I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody.
Planning to hold 5 campaign events during the convention's first 2 days. Clinton already getting an assist from Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Insecure money grubber.
Provoking Trump with a barrage of tweets this weekend. Slamming the GOP ticket as 2 small, insecure, weak men. Warren, who Trump calls goofy, has been on Clinton's VP shortlist. But with Trump's running mate a conventional conservative, some of the pressure on Clinton to pick a feisty progressive like Warren could be off. Instead, she could go with a swing state senator like Virginia's Tim Kaine or Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack, who's known her for decades.
I have seen her work and I have seen how she feels, what she feels strongly about. That's what trust is. Trust is about results.
Clinton working hard to convince voters who say they doubt her honesty that she's worthy of their trust. Casey Hunt, NBC News, Washington.
I want to turn now to Chuck Todd, NBC News political director and moderator of Meet the Press. Chuck, some would say this is a chance for Donald Trump to assure not only Republicans who are nervous, but the rest of the country that he's got this. Will we see that, Donald Trump?
Well, look, I think that if this is a successful week, he's almost has to. I mean, look at the point we're at. We've got a jittery nation. We've been absorbing all of these, some of them tragedy, some of them attacks, some of it terrorism, but it's the totality of it makes a public jittery. You also have a jittery Republican Party. Not sure if this guy has what it takes. They look at the political opportunity standing in front of them. Look at Casey Hunt's piece in our poll on Hillary Clinton. She's very vulnerable, but they're jittery, thinking this guy's going to blow it. So, look, that's what this week's got to be about for him. Number one, trying to show the country that he can handle the big moment that is now sitting here right now. You got a jittery nation, that he can reassure the nation. He can be the law and order guy. He can be the strong, tough guy. At the same time, he's also got to reassure this crowd that he can win. Right now, it's an uphill battle for both.
We're spending a lot of time here together. Good to see you.
Yes, we will. Great view.
Nice view. Chuck, thank you.
You got it.
Join us for NBC's primetime coverage of the Republican National Convention. We start tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific time. Turning overseas now to the deadly military coup attempt in Turkey, a key U.S. ally in the fight against ISIS. Thousands have now been rounded up and arrested as alleged co-conspirators. Our chief foreign correspondent, Richard Engel, has the latest from inside Turkey.
This is how Turkey wants its failed military coup to be remembered. Unarmed civilians standing down tanks, forcing one to frantically retreat over trees. Others confronting a bus of alleged coup plotters. The people defending their elected president, Tayyip Erdogan. Today, Erdogan helped carry a coffin at a funeral for his campaign manager, among the roughly 200 people killed in the attempted coup. More than 6,000 alleged conspirators have already been detained. The traitors will be rooted out like a cancer, promised Erdogan, who himself apparently survived a close call. CNN Turk, a local channel, kept broadcasting even as rebel gunmen stormed their studios.
There was a single shot that fired inside the building, and that's the casing from that shot.
The chief editor says Erdogan's jet was harassed by rebels flying F-16s.
While he was flying into Istanbul, we know that there were at least 2, maybe 3 F-16 fighter jets under rebel control in the air.
In a cockpit recording, a control tower warns Erdogan's plane about the rebel fighters, which reportedly locked on but never opened fire. So tonight, the celebrations continue for both the failed coup and the president's survival. Richard Engel, NBC News, Istanbul.
Still ahead tonight, a killer's final days. New details on what the attacker in Nice, France was caught on camera doing before killing 84 people. We're back now with new details about the man who carried out the horrific truck attack in Nice, France. Police now revealing that cameras caught him doing test runs at the location where he ultimately killed 84 people with his truck. We get more from NBC's Bill Neely.
2 more arrests today. French police now questioning 6 people, hunting for possible accomplices to mass murder. They released the killer's ex-wife without charge. They now say Mohamed Boulel rehearsed his rampage twice. Cameras recorded him last Tuesday and Wednesday, driving the same rented truck on the same road he took Thursday night when he ploughed into crowds of people. Survivors, including Americans, met today, still in shock.
The terror of not knowing what was going to happen, the shock, it was just hell. Like it was just something coming towards me. And then the people were just lying there like rag dolls.
He was going totally intentional at high speed, running on the people.
Of the nearly 300 people Mohamed Boulel hit on his rampage along this road, 18 are still on life support. Armed police patrolled Nice today, but everyone's asking, how can other attacks be stopped? For months, anti-terror police have trained. This drill simulating gunmen attacking a train. In another, they battle suicide bombers. But they admit they simply can't prepare for everything. Tonight, people spat at the place where the truck driver died, and they grieved at the memorials to his helpless victims. Bill Neely, NBC News, Nice.
We're back in a moment with the severe storms millions are dealing with this summer weekend. We're following severe weather in several states this evening, especially in North Carolina, where strong storms flooded roadways and prompted some rescues. NBC's Morgan Radford has details.
Cars underwater after floodwater rose 14 feet in just 3 hours in the parking garage of this North Carolina mall. Flooded roadways, rescue crews trying to help people trapped outside of their homes and inside their cars.
I was told I should find somewhere else to stay tonight because it's impossible to just go home, and I was told that water is pouring in to the house, and I don't have no idea what's going on in my house right now.
I never saw so much water. The water was up to my knees, my clothes wet, I'm freezing.
In the heartland, hail the size of quarters, as heavy rains and 70-mile-per-hour winds left more than 14,000 homes without power this afternoon across Iowa. Crews cleaning up mangled metal and uprooted trees, while stunned residents take stock of what's left. Morgan Radford, NBC News, New York.
When we come back here tonight, the man who's witnessed over half a century of history here at the Grand Old Party. Finally tonight, it's amazing to think about how much history has been written on convention floors just like this one. And few people have been there to witness it in person as many times as the man you're about to meet. After more than a dozen of these gatherings, to him it's less about the politics and more about the process of how we choose our presidents.
One of my favorites, of course, is this one from 1976 in Kansas City.
Mike Miller has had a backstage pass to this rite of American politics for 52 years. So is there a rhyme or reason as to where states are located?
There definitely is. There's a formula for the states that is based on their political performance.
Cleveland marks convention number 14 for this 79-year-old.
And podium unveiling tomorrow.
He first started coming as a reporter back in 1964. Then in 1972, he started working for the RNC as a behind-the-scenes operation guy. For Miller, conventions are part fascination, part hobby. Over 5 decades, he's amassed a treasure trove of memorabilia worthy of a museum.
The National Republican League meeting in Cleveland in 1895.
The 1976 contested convention in Kansas City remains one of his favorites. President Ford won the nomination only after defeating a strong challenge from Ronald Reagan. But then, some Reagan supporters made some noise.
They blew those air horns at a key time, and they brought the convention to a standstill. We couldn't do anything, and so we just had to weather that. Those things are now banned by party rule.
Among other moments that stick out in Miller's mind, Ray Charles bringing down the House in 1984. And this moment in 2012.
What do you want me to tell Romney? That was a total surprise to me and to everyone else. Clint Eastwood was backstage, and nobody knew he was going to do it. And he asked one of the contract technical people, "Do you have a stool?" And they said, "Sure." Well, they thought he was going to sit on it.
Miller swears this will be his last convention, but keep in mind, he's already retired 3 times. There's been so much expectation for this convention. What do you expect here?
Well, I don't know. There are always convention moments, defining moments that you remember forever. I don't know what they'll be.
You don't know until you see it.
I know there will be one or more, yes, always.
The Republican convention through the eyes of a man who says he hasn't seen it all, but he has seen an awful lot. We'll be looking for some of those surprises this week. That's going to do it for us on a Sunday night. I'm Lester Holt for all of us at NBC News. Thank you for watching, and good night.